The first thing I want to talk about is what happened with Tyreek Hill. So everybody's probably seen the footage at this point. Tyreek Hill is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, at least top 2 up there with Justin Jefferson. You know, they call him the cheetah because he's fast. And I guess he took that really seriously because the situation that he ran into on Sunday was involving that, you know, he was supposedly speeding. So I'm going to talk about what happened exactly. You know, if you want to go find the video, it's very easy to find the video. You can kind of see it, but I'm going to walk you through what happens in the video. So Tyreek speeds by. The cops go pull him over. So when they pull him over, the cop comes over, taps on the window, asks for his license and registration. He gives him the license and registration. Tyreek says, "Don't tap on my window." He rolls the window back up. He taps on the window again, tell him to roll the window back down. He says, "Don't tap on my window." Then the next thing that happens is he says, you know, this is the cop now, "Hey, pull your window down right now." The other cop comes over with him. "Pull your window down now or we're going to open it for you, break it." And at this point, they go, open the door. They open the door, yoke him up, grab him, and pull him out forcefully. All right? Then they put him on the ground. They start, you know, talking to him about this is what happens when you don't disrespect it. You're going to listen. They talk about, I think he mentions to him, you know, stop crying. You know, Tyreek Hill's like, "Wow, you know, what are you guys doing? Hey, man, all right, if you want to take me to jail, take me to jail." He's on the phone with his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. At this point, they pick him up after they had a knee in his back. They bring him to the sidewalk, and then they're trying to get him to sit down. He's talking about he has surgery on his knee. They pull him down, sit him down forcefully. I think it's Calais Campbell is the name of the teammate that comes over as well to start asking about what's going on. And then they start to tell him, "Move your car," all those things. And then there's one cop that's calm, that's like, "Look, just get out of here." And then the other cop comes over and is like, "Nah, you're dealing with me now. Give me your license. I'm going to give you a ticket." And that's roughly what happened. Tyreek actually made it to the game. So that's kind of the situation. Now, the reason I bring it up is because it's obvious, you know, that they use excessive force. I don't really think that's up for debate, even if you want to listen to different sides and different voices to get their perspective on it. I did that. I heard different people saying, "Oh, you just have to comply with the cops." Other people saying, "No, you can't treat somebody like that." So you know, it's just aggravating to see things like this that still happen. And this is nothing compared to what really happens to people when no one's looking and when you're not famous and people actually know who you are. Because one of the cops during the video does say to somebody else, "Hey, that's Tyreek Hill." Yeah, why would you say that? Because you know it's Tyreek Hill. The man's in a $500,000 car. Everybody, it's in Miami. You know that's Tyreek Hill. Now, that doesn't mean that you should treat him differently or not. But, you know, it's like everybody's talking about it because it happened to Tyreek Hill. Now, I think it's, like I said, it's very obvious that the way they treated him was excessive. Let me walk you through how they were supposed to deal with that, right? So when Tyreek is kind of giving him a little bit of pushback, he is giving him a little bit of attitude. He's a little agitated because he's about to be late to the game. He rolls the window back up. He's rolling the window back up, and I think he confirmed this later through his agent. He's just not trying to get, you know, photographed in a situation like this that could compromise him with the NFL. Okay, fine. That's why you roll the window back up. Now, as the officer, you're asking him to roll the window back down so you can see what's going on. Okay, fine. He doesn't comply the way that you want him to comply. All right, you ask him to step out the car. You didn't even give him a second. It was like 2 seconds. They open the door and they pull him out. Come on, man, that's excessive. You're not supposed to grab anybody out the car. And for all those people that are out there saying, "Oh, the cop felt that their safety was on the line because they couldn't see into the car." If they felt their safety was on the line, they wouldn't just blindly reach into the car. They would have stepped back, got space, put their hand on a weapon or a taser or something like that and said, "Step out of the vehicle." You know, these are people that have never been in a traffic stop talking about things that they don't know what they're talking about. And that's you know, it reminded me of a story. I was having a conversation with a couple of coworkers. This is a while back. And the young lady that was in the conversation, she's talking about how nothing ever goes through her mind when she's getting pulled over, and that, she doesn't ever feel like it's a big deal, and she thinks nothing of it. And me and another gentleman, we're like, nah, that's that's not how it is. And I actually went into a recent story about a speeding ticket that I got, and I talk about how immediately when I'm pulled over, that I put both my hands on the steering wheel, that I have my wallet nearby ready to go to give them what they need. And I'm just trying to get the cop in and out of there. You don't want to try and escalate the situation, because even if somebody's in the wrong during a situation, if there's something that you can do to try and keep it from getting worse, you should do your best to try to do it, because it's in your best benefit, regardless of who's right or wrong. And that's what I want to bring up next in this situation, is that, like when I was speaking to the young lady, not everybody understands all the different aspects of different parts of life. If they've never gone through it or don't understand how those situations unfold, they can't really understand or speak to it. So that was why I spoke to her about it at that moment. She's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So one of the things that I feel like people do is they just go with one extreme. They just look at, you got to obey the police, or you can't treat somebody like that, or why. It's got to be a combination of both. At the end of the day, they were never supposed to grab him out the car and treat him like that over a speeding ticket when they never gave him a chance to get out the car. It's like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, they're reaching into the car. They were worried about what their safety was. They should have gave him an opportunity to get out of the car. So the next thing I want to talk about with this particular instance is an interesting take I heard from Stephen A. Smith. And actually, I liked what he had to say, because whenever you go on TV, depending on what side people are typically on or line up with politically, you're usually going to hear the same talking points. So on First Take, I like to go listen to that show from time to time and listen to different takes on. I like those debate shows. I like to see people go back and forth and argue sports. Sports, one of my favorite things to listen to. And I like to hear Stephen A. talk on different topics. And he never really shies away from speaking about, mistreatment or how people are being held down and what needs to happen and how things need to change. I've never seen him really shy away from those conversations. So the show starts, everyone is talking about how, this is completely egregious. Right now, the body cam footage is out. You can clearly see that he's being mistreated, and there's an excessive use of force in this situation. They already is investigating the officer. I think they released the announcement that they're going to put him on administrative duties pending a review. And, everybody on the show, I think Stephen A. goes last, all talk about how this isn't right. And I agree. I've seen what these situations look like in the real world, and they're not fun. So he goes into talking about the situation, agrees with everything everybody else says, but then also brings up that Tyreek could have also done something to try to de-escalate the situation. But it's on the cop to de-escalate the situation. But if you see that the cop is not going to de-escalate the situation and your life could potentially be in jeopardy, and he's speaking to all the different people that are out there that could potentially be in this type of situation, that you want to try to do your best to not to escalate it to where they escalate it even more. And I like what he said here, because, like I said, we all in agreement. It was excessive force. He wasn't treated right. But when he started to give attitude to the cop, it's not illegal to give a cop attitude. There's nothing in the law book that says you can get locked up for having an attitude. That's all he had. He had a little bit of an attitude. That's it. That wasn't enough to grab him and put him on the floor. So he talks about how if you're in a situation like that, you don't want to do anything to try and escalate that situation further when it can already escalate for no reason, right? Sometimes you don't even got to do, you could do everything right, and that situation will escalate regardless. So he talks about how you got to try and look at the perspective of what somebody who may be in this situation one day that isn't Tyreek Hill, that's not famous and doesn't have 1 million people with cameras watching the situation. Somebody else, the situation, and it happens all the time, it could get really, really, really ugly. So he brings up that he should have just rolled the window down, agreed with the cop, and that might have caused the cop not to escalate it further. doesn't absolve the cop from what he did. But Stephen A. brought up that point, and he actually got some pushback on the show, and he stood firm. He said, listen, I'm trying to speak to people in a way that could save lives. I thought this was real, genuine of him, that he's speaking in a way that is true, right? Because the other gentleman on the show talks about how, everybody has this conversation in private about when you're a person of color that you want to conduct yourself a certain kind of way during a traffic stop or any sort of interaction with the police. Not everybody gets that conversation. What if you don't have somebody around that is there to give you that knowledge, right? Say your home didn't have somebody to have that conversation with you, right? So just in case that happened, maybe Tyreek Hill's their favorite receiver. Maybe the Dolphins are their favorite team, and maybe they just love to watch First Take. And that when they're in a situation like that, they remember something that Stephen A. said in regards to this situation, and that helps them proceed in a way that gives them the best chance to get in and out of that situation without anything happening to them. And the best analogy I can give you with this is that, say you're driving down the road. If you're driving down the road and all of a sudden a car from the other side of the road or the other side of the street is driving towards you in the wrong lane, it's obvious that that car is in the wrong. It is going the wrong way on the wrong side of the road towards you. Does that matter that they're the one in the wrong, or should you try to swerve out of the way even though they're the ones that are wrong and give yourself a better chance to survive whatever situation it is, rather than going into it head on and risking what could possibly happen? That's how I look at it. And I want to give him a shout out for doing so, because he's taking an opportunity to try and broaden the conversation and broaden the perspective. Because like I said, everybody's just saying, oh, he got treated wrong. The way they dealt with him was completely wrong. That is not how you handle dealing with another human being when you're supposed to be in a position of power to protect and serve the community. He's just trying to broaden the conversation and the perspective that people have, because regardless of whoever's right and who's wrong, if there's something that you can do to try and help you in a situation, even when someone else is wrong, you should do it and try to take that opportunity. Just remember the analogy that I gave you. If a car is on the wrong side of the road coming towards you and you're on the right side of the road, doesn't mean you have to crash into them head on. Sometimes it makes sense to try and swerve or get out of the way just so you don't have to have a head-on collision. And I want to give a shout out to him for that. And for people that refuse to try and broaden their perspective, broaden their horizons, and just want to look at everything with tunnel vision, these scissors are for you. Cut it out. Learn to look at things with a broader perspective. Learn to look at things from multiple different sides and try to learn as best as you can. We're all different. The only way we're going to move forward as a society is if we open our ears, open our minds, and listen and try to understand what other people are talking about and try to look at all the different angles from a situation so that we can learn from it and improve our society further. So that's what I wanted to say in regards to that. And for the officers out there that are supposed to protect and serve the community but choose to engage in unlawful abuse of power and ego trips on just members of the community, cut it out. But shout out to all those officers out there that do protect and serve the community. I know it's not all of you, but for the ones that are out there that seem to be on a power trip and want to just inflict pain and suffering on other people just because you're in a position of power, I'm going to say it one more time. Cut it out.